I never thought a regular Saturday dinner at my parents' house would mark the beginning of such a dramatic change in our family's life. But there I was, sitting at the familiar oak dining table, when my older sister dropped the bombshell that would set everything in motion. "I've decided to sell my apartment," Amanda announced, barely containing her excitement. "We're going to open our own Italian restaurant." I nearly choked on my mashed potatoes. The apartment she was talking about wasn't just any property, it was a luxury 3-bedroom condo in the heart of the city, the one our grandmother had left her in her will. Her husband Mike nodded enthusiastically, his fork waving in the air as he spoke. "I know everything there is to know about Italian cuisine. And Amanda has restaurant experience, so we're perfectly qualified." I watched as my parents' faces lit up with admiration. Mom clasped her hands together in delight, while Dad beamed with pride. "That's such a wonderful idea, honey," Mom exclaimed. "You've always had such a good head for business." But something didn't sit right with me. Call me boring, and trust me, I've been called worse, but being a financial manager means I can't help but think about the practical side of things. "Have you actually calculated all the risks?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Maybe it would be better to take out a business loan instead of selling your only property?" Amanda rolled her eyes. "Here we go again. Classic Nellie, always overthinking everything. Do you at least have a business plan?" I pressed on, glancing at her kids, 5-year-old Tommy and 2-year-old Lisa, who were playing with their toys in the living room. "You have 2 small children to think about. If things don't work out, buying another apartment won't be easy." "Oh, please," Amanda scoffed. "You don't understand anything about business opportunities. In today's economy, you have to take risks to get ahead. You can't just sit around waiting for success to fall into your lap." "But your restaurant experience," I started, remembering how she'd only worked as an administrator for a few months before Tommy was born. "It was pretty brief, wasn't it?" "God, you're so boring." Amanda threw her hands up in exasperation. "This is exactly why you're still single, Nellie. You never take any chances." I sat there, pushing the remains of my dinner around my plate, listening to them spin their fantasy of success. Not once did they mention the possibility of failure, of things going wrong. Not once did they consider what would happen if their dream restaurant didn't work out. An hour later, I pulled into the driveway of my small house, Grand's house really, though she'd been gone for 3 years now. As I unlocked the front door, my mind wandered back to her final days and how she'd divided her property between my sister and me. Amanda had practically camped out at Grand's hospital bed, going on and on about how perfect the luxury apartment would be for her future family. I remember Gran looking at me apologetically as she explained her decision to leave me the house instead. "You've always been practical, just like me," she'd said, squeezing my hand with what little strength she had left. "This house isn't fancy, but it's paid for and full of love. You'll appreciate its value more than anyone else could." Sitting in my cozy living room now, surrounded by Gran's old furniture that I couldn't bear to replace, I couldn't help but think about how history kept repeating itself with Amanda. The memory of her childhood tantrums came flooding back, the time she screamed for 2 hours straight because Mom bought her the wrong color bicycle, or when she threw herself on the floor of the mall because Dad wouldn't buy her a second pair of designer jeans. There was also that memorable Christmas when she refused to speak to anyone for 3 days because she got the previous year's iPhone model instead of the latest one. Our parents had nod along to whatever scheme she cooked up, praising her creativity and ambition while dismissing my concerns as negativity. Even when she dropped out of college because classes were boring and she wanted to find herself, they supported her decision wholeheartedly. I made myself a cup of tea in Gran's old porcelain cup, trying to push these thoughts aside. I had my own life to focus on, my job at Henderson Financial was demanding but rewarding, and I had a major project presentation coming up that could lead to a promotion. Our team was working on restructuring a client's investment portfolio, and I needed to be sharp. Amanda's restaurant dreams weren't my problem, and dwelling on them wouldn't change anything. But exactly 1 month later, my phone rang during my lunch break, just as I was reviewing the final numbers for my presentation. Mom's name flashed on the screen, and I felt a strange sense of foreboding. Nellie, you won't believe it, she practically squealed, her voice high with excitement. They did it. They sold the apartment and found the perfect location for the restaurant. It's right on Madison Street, you know, where all those trendy places are. Mike is already working on the menu. He's got such wonderful ideas, fusion Italian cuisine, can you imagine? And Amanda, oh, you should see her Instagram posts about the restaurant. She's going to be such a successful businesswoman. She's already got over 1,000 followers for the restaurant page. I gripped my phone tighter, feeling my knuckles turn white. Where are they living now? They found a nice rental, Mom replied breezily, as if they hadn't just sold their only real estate asset. I'm watching Tommy and Lisa while they get everything set up. It's so exciting. They're talking about having a big grand opening party next month. I stared at the financial report on my desk, thinking about the massive risk my sister had just taken. The statistics about restaurant failures in their first year flashed through my mind. I'd looked them up after that dinner, and they weren't pretty. 2 months passed in a blur of work deadlines and quiet evenings at home before I received Amanda's message. The invitation popped up on my Instagram feed, an elaborate digital card with gold lettering announcing the grand opening of Bella Italia. I had to admit, it looked professional. When I arrived at the address on Madison Street that Saturday evening, I was actually impressed. The storefront had been transformed with elegant lighting and window boxes full of fresh herbs. Inside, the decor was warm and inviting, exposed brick walls, dark wood tables, and strings of twinkling lights crisscrossing the ceiling. Nellie, you came. Amanda rushed over in a designer dress that probably cost more than a month's worth of rent. She air-kissed my cheeks, champagne glass wobbling in her hand. The place was packed with familiar faces, cousins, aunts, uncles, old family friends, and Mike's entire extended family. Mom and Dad were holding court near the bar, Dad's voice carrying across the room as he gestured enthusiastically. Just wait and see, I overheard him telling Uncle Jim. Amanda's going to be the next big name in the restaurant business. She's got that entrepreneurial spirit, you know? Not like Nellie, she'll probably work for other people until she retires. Mom nodded along. Some people are just born leaders, and others, well, they're more comfortable following. I pretended not to hear them as I made my way to the appetizer table. Their words didn't sting as much as they might have once. I'd long ago accepted that I'd never be the daughter they bragged about at family gatherings. Congratulations, I told Amanda sincerely, raising my glass. The place looks beautiful. I hope it's a huge success. The next few months fell into a pattern. Every Sunday dinner at our parents' house became a progress report on Bella Italia. Amanda would sweep in, sometimes with the kids and Mike, sometimes just with Tommy and Lisa in tow, and dominate the conversation with tales of her budding restaurant empire. That's our girl, Dad would beam. Always knew she had it in her to be a successful entrepreneur. It's in her blood. Mom would inevitably chime in with, not everyone has that drive, shooting meaningful glances my way. Amanda would smirk at me across the table, that same superior look she'd had since we were kids, and she'd gotten her way yet again. But one evening, when the conversation turned to actual numbers, I couldn't help myself. How's the revenue looking? I asked, keeping my tone casual. Are you hitting your projected targets? Amanda's smile faltered for a split second. Oh, you know how it is with new restaurants, she said, waving her hand dismissively. We're still building our customer base. But we'll be self-sufficient any day now, and then the profits will really start rolling in. Something in her voice made me think of a time in high school when she'd insisted everything was fine with her grades, right up until she failed 3 classes. But I kept that thought to myself and just nodded, taking another bite of Mom's pot roast. The spring evening started like any other Sunday dinner, with Mom's cooking filling the house with familiar aromas and Dad telling his same old jokes. Then Amanda cleared her throat and grabbed Mike's hand. We have some news, she announced, beaming. I'm pregnant. Baby number 3 is on the way. Mom burst into tears of joy, Dad started talking about another grandchild to spoil, and Mike sat there grinning like he'd just won the lottery. Tommy and Lisa jumped around the table, chanting, "Baby, baby." I set down my fork, choosing my words carefully. "Are you sure this is the best timing? With the restaurant still getting established and everything?" The room went silent. "You'd think I'd just suggested selling Tommy and Lisa to the circus." "Nellie," Mom's voice could have cut glass. "How dare you? A baby is always a blessing." Besides, she added with that particular tone she reserved for discussing my personal life, "You'd understand if you had any children of your own. Or a husband. You're 30 now, you know. Not getting any younger." 8 months later, little Emily joined the family. She was beautiful, with Amanda's blue eyes and Mike's dark hair. But while everyone was cooing over the new addition, I couldn't help but notice the strain showing around my sister's eyes, the way Mike kept checking his phone with an increasingly worried expression. The truth finally came out 3 months after Emily's birth, during another family dinner. Amanda looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes visible despite her makeup, while Mike had traded his usual confident swagger for nervous fidgeting. "We're having some challenges at the restaurant," Amanda admitted, pushing her food around her plate. The word seemed to physically pain her. "The staff turnover is killing us. We've gone through 6 different head chefs because Mike keeps wanting to innovate with the menu." She took a shaky breath. "We've had to take out a business loan just to keep things running. The numbers they're not what we projected." I sat there in silence, remembering all my questions about their business plan from that first dinner. The loan they should have taken instead of selling the apartment. The risks I'd warned them about. But I didn't say any of it. The next 6 months were like watching a slow-motion car crash. Every week brought new problems at Bella Italia. First, the lunch crowd dwindled to nothing. Then the evening reservations started to dry up. The restaurant's Instagram page, once full of beautifully plated dishes and smiling customers, went quiet. The last post was a sad 2-for-1 Tuesday promotion that got 3 likes. I heard most of it through Mom's daily phone calls to update me on the situation. How they had to let go of half the staff. How they started closing on Mondays to cut costs. How Mike got into a shouting match with their last remaining chef over putting sushi rolls on their Italian menu. "They're just having a rough patch," Mom would insist. "Every new business goes through this." But it wasn't just a rough patch. By spring, the writing was on the wall in bright, neon letters. The restaurant's debts had piled up like autumn leaves: unpaid suppliers, late rent, mounting tax bills. The final blow came when their main investor pulled out, leaving them with no choice but to sell Bella Italia for a fraction of what they'd invested. The sale barely covered their business debts. They still owed the bank nearly $200,000 from the loan they'd taken out. Amanda, Mike, and their 3 kids, Tommy now 8, Lisa 5, and little Emily just turning 1, were left with nothing. No home, no income, and a mountain of debt. I almost skipped the next Saturday dinner. Something in Mom's voice when she called to remind me about it set off warning bells. But I went anyway, pulling up to their house just as the spring sun was setting. The atmosphere hit me the moment I walked in. Mom and Dad sat ramrod straight in their usual chairs. Amanda and Mike were there too, the kids playing quietly in the corner, unusually subdued for them. Emily was asleep in her carrier, while Tommy and Lisa seemed to sense the tension in the room, focusing intently on their tablets. I hadn't even settled properly into my chair when Dad cleared his throat. "Nellie, we've made a decision." The way he said "we" made my stomach clench. "Your sister and her family need a place to stay," Mom jumped in. "You have that big house all to yourself." I felt like I'd walked into an ambush. "What?" "We need to move in with you," Amanda stated, as if she was telling me the weather forecast. "Temporarily, of course." My mouth went dry. How long is temporarily?" Amanda shrugged, examining her perfectly manicured nails, probably her last professional manicure for a while, I thought hysterically. "Hard to say. I can't work, obviously. Not with 3 small children to take care of. And Mike needs time to find the right position. I'm not going to flip burgers somewhere, Mike interjected, puffing up his chest. I was a business owner. I need something at an executive level. So we'll need to stay with you for a few years, Amanda continued, as if discussing borrowing a cup of sugar. It's not like you're using all that space anyway. And let's be honest, Nellie, you're not getting any younger. The chances of you getting married and having kids are getting pretty slim. You're already 30, and you spend all your time working. I sat there, stunned into silence by my sister's breathtaking arrogance. The casual cruelty of her words hung in the air like poison, made worse by our parents' nodding heads. Mom and Dad were actually agreeing with her, as if my single status and career somehow made me responsible for fixing their mistakes. I pushed my chair back and stood up, the leg scraping against the floor with a harsh sound that made everyone jump. No. What do you mean, no? Amanda asked, genuine confusion in her voice. The concept of me refusing her anything was apparently foreign to her. I mean no. You're not moving into my house. My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. Not for a few years, not for a few months, not at all. The silence that followed was deafening. I could actually hear the tick of Mom's ancient kitchen clock, marking the seconds. Tommy and Lisa looked up from their tablets, sensing the tension in the room. Even baby Emily stirred in her carrier. Then the explosion came. How dare you? Mom shrieked, her face turning red. They're your family. Your own flesh and blood. You selfish, heartless witch. Amanda joined in, tears already starting to flow. My children will be homeless because of you. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes rattle. I never thought I raised such a cruel, uncaring daughter. These are your nephews and niece we're talking about. You've always been jealous of your sister, Mike added, wrapping an arm around my sobbing sister. You're probably happy we failed. I let them rant, watching as they worked themselves into a righteous fury. The accusations flew thick and fast. I was heartless, cruel, selfish, bitter, jealous. A terrible aunt. A disappointment as a daughter. A failure as a woman. When they finally ran out of steam, I spoke, my voice still perfectly calm. You know who could take them in? You could, Mom and Dad. Since you supported their brilliant business plan so enthusiastically. Since you cheered them on when they sold their only home. Since you told them what a wonderful idea it all was. Mom's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Dad started to sputter something about their house being too small, but I cut him off. I warned you all, I continued, reaching for my coat. I warned you about selling the apartment. I warned you about starting a business without a proper plan. I warned you about the risks. Not one of you listened. Not one of you even considered that I might know what I was talking about. And now that everything I predicted has come true, you expect me to clean up your mess? I buttoned my coat with steady hands. You made your decisions. All of you. You chose not to listen to reason. You chose to ignore every warning sign. You chose to risk everything on a dream with no foundation. And now you're facing the consequences of those choices. I walked out into the cool evening air, closing the door on their protests. As I got into my car, I could still hear them shouting through the windows, their voices a chorus of outrage and disbelief. The harassment started within hours of me leaving my parents' house. First came the guilt trip texts from Mom, how can you sleep at night knowing your nieces and nephew might end up homeless? Then Dad's angry voicemails about family duty and responsibility. Amanda alternated between tearful pleas and vicious attacks, while Mike sent long, rambling messages about how I was destroying his children's future. I blocked their numbers after the first week, but they just switched to email. Then social media. Then they started having other family members contact me. Aunt Susan called to tell me I was breaking my mother's heart. Cousin Rachel sent me a 5-paragraph Facebook message about how karma would get me. Uncle Jim cornered me outside my office to lecture me about family values. I weathered it all, focusing on my work and the peace of my home. But I wasn't naive. I knew my family well enough to know they wouldn't just accept my refusal. That's why I'd called a locksmith the very next day after that disastrous dinner. The locks were changed, a security system was installed, and cameras were placed at strategic points around the house. Smart thinking, as it turned out. I was driving home from work one Wednesday evening when I saw them. Amanda, Mike, and the kids were camped out on my front porch, surrounded by suitcases and boxes. Tommy was sitting on a large duffel bag, looking bored. Lisa was crying, and Emily was fussy in her carrier. Mike was jiggling my doorknob with what I assumed was my mother's spare key. I pulled into my driveway and got out of my car, unable to suppress a laugh at the scene before me. They all turned at the sound. "Something funny?" Mike snarled, still trying to force the key into the lock. "Actually, yes," I replied, leaning against my car. "Did you really think I wouldn't change the locks after that dinner? The alarm system's nice too. It's already sent 3 notifications to my phone about attempted entry." Amanda stepped forward, her face twisted with anger. "You can't just leave us out here. We're your family." "You're trespassing," I corrected her. "And if you don't leave immediately, I'll call the police." I pulled out my phone to demonstrate I wasn't bluffing. "You wouldn't dare," Mike growled, taking a threatening step toward me. I held up my phone, showing them the 911 already dialed, my thumb hovering over the call button. "Try me." They stared at me for a long moment, probably searching for any sign of weakness or uncertainty. They found none. Finally, Amanda burst into tears, real ones this time, not her usual performance, and started gathering up their things. Mike helped her, muttering threats under his breath. The kids just looked confused and tired. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I spent the day visiting rental properties in decent neighborhoods, finally finding a clean, spacious 3-bedroom apartment in a good school district. The landlord was understandably hesitant about renting to a family with 3 young kids, but the 6 months' rent I paid in advance, nearly $20,000 from my savings, helped change his mind. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house, the apartment keys feeling heavy in my pocket. It was early, but I knew they'd all be there. They always gathered for Saturday breakfast, a tradition that used to include me too. The room fell silent when I walked in. Mom nearly dropped the pancake plate, and Dad's newspaper crinkled as his hands tightened on it. "Here," I said, placing the keys and a folder on the table. "It's a 3-bedroom apartment on Cedar Street. Good neighborhood, walking distance to the elementary school. I paid 6 months' rent in advance." Amanda stared at the keys like they might bite her. Mike didn't even look up from his phone. "The lease starts today," I continued, my voice steady. "I've already talked to the landlord. He knows you have 3 kids. There's a playground in the complex, and the building has a laundry room on each floor." I turned to Mike specifically. "You have 6 months to find a job, any job. Pride doesn't pay bills or feed children. When the lease ends, you'll need to either renew it yourselves or find another place. This is the only help I'm offering." Nobody spoke. Tommy and Lisa had stopped fighting over the syrup and were watching with wide eyes. Even Emily seemed to sense the tension, her tiny hand paused midway to her mouth with a piece of pancake. "That's it?" Amanda finally asked, her voice bitter. "You think throwing money at us makes up for turning your back on family?" I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The entitled teenager who always got her way had grown into an entitled adult who never learned to face consequences. "No," I replied calmly. "The money doesn't make up for anything. It's just the right thing to do. What happens next is up to you." Mom started to say something, probably another lecture about family duty, but I held up my hand. "I'm done. I helped because those kids deserve a stable home, but I'm not enabling this behavior anymore. You all made your choices. Now you have to live with them." I left without waiting for a response. As I drove home, I caught myself smiling, not because I was happy about the situation, but because for the first time in my life, I felt truly free of their expectations and manipulation. 3 months have passed since then. According to Aunt Susan, who still talks to me, albeit disapprovingly, Amanda and her family are living in the apartment I rented. Mike still hasn't found a job. Apparently, being a former restaurant owner makes him too good for regular work. Amanda spends most of her time complaining on social media about how hard her life is. Mom and Dad continue to enable them, watching the kids and bringing them groceries. I haven't spoken to any of them since that morning. I've started taking evening classes in investment management, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the emotional energy for before. Last week, I got a promotion at work, senior financial manager with my own team.
Hey, I'm Sandra. Let me take you back to where it all began. Life was always just me and my mom, Trina, a dynamic duo since as far back as I can remember. My dad left us when I was very young, so my memories of him are hazy and few. Growing up, it was always just the two of us against the world. We weren't rich, but my mom worked tirelessly to ensure we had a roof over our heads and food on the table. Our small apartment in a quiet neighborhood was home, and I loved it. I never knew what it was like to have a fatherly presence around. My mom was my hero. After high school, I decided to stay close to home and attend the local community college. I couldn't bear the thought of leaving my mom alone after everything she had done for me. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, but I figured I'd sort that out along the way. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was comfortable and it was ours. Things were going well, and I eventually got a job as the manager of a local bookstore. It wasn't the most thrilling job, but it paid the bills, and I had a passion for books, so it felt like a good fit. My mom was over the moon when I started bringing home a paycheck. It was like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Then came Peter. I met him when I was 23 in one of those chance encounters you never expect to turn into something big. He walked into the bookstore one day while I was busy arranging a shelf. He asked for a book recommendation, and we got talking. Things just happened naturally from there. Peter and I hit it off incredibly well, and we felt a connection that was almost electric. Everything seemed to fall into place. Eventually, Peter decided it was time for me to meet his mother, Donna. I had heard so much about her from Peter, and I was a little nervous. He arranged for us to have dinner at her house. So I decided to bring a homemade pie, hoping to make a good impression. Oh, Sandra, so lovely to finally meet you. You brought pie? How charming. Thanks, Donna. I thought you might enjoy it. Mom, Ella's a fantastic baker. You'll love it. Well, let's hope it tastes as good as it looks. So, Sandra, speaking of family, how is your family life? I heard it's just you and your mother, Trina, and no father in the picture. Isn't that sad? Well, my mom and I are very close. We've always been there for each other. So, Ella, your mom isn't remarried? No, she isn't. Well, maybe she's the problematic one. You shouldn't blame your dad for leaving, you know. Sometimes kids fail to see things the way they are. Mom, I've met Ella. She's a wonderful woman. Son, I'm going to be honest with you. In my opinion, single women often raise the most problematic daughters. I call it like I see it. They raise their daughters to be bossy. And Peter, weren't you into blondes? Sandra here is a brunette, not very attractive in my eyes. Your ex-girlfriend was studying at an Ivy League school or something, and Sandra runs a bookstore. This seems like quite a downgrade. Mom, I didn't choose Sandra based on her job or education. I chose her because of the person she is. Your dad and I worked hard to ensure you could go to a good college, and now this is the kind of woman you bring home. No offense, Sandra. But there might be someone out there for you too, but it's just not my son. After that awkward dinner with Donna, Peter apologized to me repeatedly for her behavior. He felt genuinely sorry that his mother was so critical, but I assured him that our love was strong and wouldn't be easily shaken by someone's words. I knew my mother-in-law could be tough to deal with, but I was determined not to let it get in the way of our relationship. In any relationship, it's crucial to take a stand when needed, but I also believe in being respectful. Peter and I were deeply in love, and we were confident in our decision to be together. We didn't need anyone's approval but our own to know that we were right for each other. Over time, Peter and I grew even closer, and our love blossomed. He started talking about our future together, and not long after, he asked me to marry him. When it came time to plan our wedding, Peter and I discussed the guest list and decided to invite Donna and a couple of Peter's close friends. Unfortunately, Peter had lost his dad, and he didn't have many guests from his dad's side, so the guest list was small. A few months before the wedding, we shared our engagement news with Donna, and I could sense she wasn't too thrilled about it, but that didn't deter us from inviting her. We decided to visit her at her house to personally extend the invitation. "Hi, Donna. We wanted to talk to you about our wedding." "Oh, the wedding, huh? Mom, we'd really love for you to be there." "Yes, it's such an important day for us, and we want you to be a part of it." "Well, isn't that sweet, but honestly, I've got other things to do." "Sandra, sweetie, you don't really know what you're getting into with my son." "Mom, please. Ella's amazing and I love her. I want you to see that. You are my mom. You seriously wouldn't miss my wedding, would you?" "Donna, we may have our differences, but this day is about love. We would love to have you there. I'm just not sure it's a good idea, you know." Donna not showing up at our wedding was a real bummer. Let me tell you, we made every effort to get Donna to our wedding. We called her countless times, but she couldn't be bothered. Peter's friends and family were there, but we could see the disappointment in his eyes. He tried to keep his spirits up, but his mom's absence was clearly weighing on him. It's tough when your spouse is feeling low and there's not much you can do to lift their spirits. Despite everything, Peter insisted we go ahead with the ceremony. He wouldn't let a no-show ruin our day, even if it was his mother. Fast forward 6 months into our marriage and Donna was still keeping her distance. It was like she had made a conscious choice to pretend we didn't exist. It was tough for Peter, and I could see it in his behavior, but he never blamed me. Peter's birthday rolled around and we tried to throw a small family gathering to mark the occasion. We reached out to Donna, but she turned us down without any explanation. Peter was obviously hurt by his mom skipping his birthday. I remember those weekends when I used to visit my mom regularly. It had always been just the two of us, and I felt a deep sense of responsibility toward her. I could sense Peter's desire to see his own mom, but he couldn't. In a strange way, I felt like the blame was on me, like I was the reason he couldn't have that bond with his mother. The bond between a mother and her children is something truly special, and it pained me to think that I might have unintentionally taken that away from Peter and Donna. "Peter, honey, I can't help but feel responsible for the distance between you and your mom. It's like she's avoiding you because of me." "Sandra, you can't blame yourself for my mom's actions. It's her choice to be distant. She has her own reasons, but it seems that she can't accept our relationship. It's affecting you, and I hate seeing you like this. I know it's tough, but it's not your fault. I love you, and I wouldn't want it any other way. We'll figure this out together. I just want you to have the relationship you deserve with your mom." I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands. I couldn't bear to see Peter suffer because of his strained relationship with his mom. So one day, without telling Peter, I headed over to Donna's place. I was determined to have a woman-to-woman conversation with her, hoping to ask her to give me a chance. "Donna, it's been over 6 months. Don't you miss your son? He's been missing you. Your son was really hurt when you didn't show up at our wedding or his birthday. I understand you might not approve of me, but can you give me a chance for Peter's sake? I'm really close to my mom, and I can't even imagine not talking to her for that long. Peter respects you a lot, so maybe you can give me a chance at this." "Sandra, it's not that simple. You're not the woman I imagined for my son. I'm confident we can work something out, Donna. Just give me a chance. Get to know me, and who knows? Maybe we'll discover some common ground. We might even find something we both like." "Oh, please, Ella, you're nothing like me. I don't think we can ever get along, but I will give it a thought just because I miss my son way too much." I got back from Donna's place not really knowing what to expect. I decided not to tell Peter about our chat just yet. It felt like if it happened, it should be a surprise, and maybe a pleasant one. The next Sunday, Donna reached out to Peter. She called and surprisingly told him she was willing to give things a second chance. Donna even invited us over for dinner at her new place. It was a step in the right direction, and I couldn't help but feel hopeful. Things might just be looking up for Peter and his mom. We went to her place in the evening. I helped Donna a bit with the food while Peter enjoyed a beer. "Son, I want to apologize for missing your wedding and your birthday. It was the first time I missed your birthday, and I know the wedding was a big deal. Mom, it hurt me that you weren't there for the wedding. It was such an important day for me, and I really wanted you to be there. I'm genuinely sorry for that. You know I've had my reservations about Sandra, but I'm willing to give this a second chance. Thanks, Mom. I hope we can have a better future. By the way, how's your mom, Sandra? I visit her regularly. Well, she must be all alone now, right? Donna commented. Come on, Mom, let's not get into this again. Peter sighed. I'm just saying, she sounds like a crazy cat lady who can't keep a husband or a relationship. That's completely not true. She just chooses not to. Peter retorted. Sandra and I drive down to see Trina almost every weekend. She treats me like her own son. It seems like you two visit her more often than you reach out to me, Donna accused. Mom, I tried to call you so many times, especially around the wedding, and you never picked up. It made me feel really disappointed. But I am your mom. I know you're my mom, and no one can replace that. Trina is my mother-in-law, and she's making an effort. I told her once that I like Mexican food, and the next time we went over, she cooked a special Mexican meal for me even though she had no experience with it. She's a kind woman, a great mother-in-law, and I'm grateful for that. Well, it looks like my son has different priorities now, Donna said, a hint of bitterness in her voice. How about dinner at my place every Sunday? I think we should start new traditions. That sounds great, Donna, Sandra replied warmly. Mom, you have no idea how happy I am to see you make an effort like this, Peter added, smiling. Nearly a year had passed since Peter and I got married, and I have to say, things were going great. Peter made me breakfast every day before he left for work, leaving it on the kitchen counter with a little note that never failed to brighten my day. He also surprised me with a bouquet of fresh flowers every Friday evening, a tradition that always brought a smile to my face. Despite the rocky start with Donna, she gradually started warming up to me. She wasn't exactly my biggest fan, and she had some strong opinions about my mother, believing that she was problematic and had raised me to be a problematic daughter. But deep down, Donna wanted to rekindle her relationship with her son, which gave me hope. Our Sundays were reserved for visiting Donna. It had become a regular thing, almost a tradition. Donna would invite us over for dinner, and it was a step in the right direction. I couldn't help but feel that maybe, just maybe, we could all grow closer as a family. It was just a regular Sunday, and we were all geared up to head over to Donna's place. But that day took a sharp turn when my phone rang with alarming news. It was the hospital, and the news was not good. My mom had suffered a stroke and was being rushed to the hospital. I told Peter, and he immediately sent a text to Donna explaining the situation and apologizing for our absence. There was no way we could make it to her place. I couldn't bear the thought of not being there for my mom when she needed us the most. So off we went to the hospital, and those hours of waiting and worrying felt like an eternity. Fortunately, it turned out to be a mini stroke. Still, it was scary, and it could have been much worse. My mom's a tough cookie, and she was on the mend. For the next few days, I stuck by my mom's side, taking some time off from the bookstore to look after her. Peter would drive down every couple of days to check on us, his concern for Trina evident, which meant the world to me. My mom's health gradually improved, and that was a relief like no other. One evening, when we returned home, I found myself feeling drained both emotionally and physically. I hadn't even had a moment to process everything that had happened, and then the doorbell rang. It was Donna. Well, I haven't seen you guys in a while, she said. Mom, like I told you, Trina had a mini stroke, Peter explained. I've been trying to mend things with you. I even let Sandra into my house, even though I had my issues with her. But it's been almost 2 weeks. You couldn't even manage to show up at my house once. Donna, it was a serious situation. My mom was at the hospital. She had a mini stroke. I was so scared I could have lost her. I needed my husband there, and it's not like we stopped coming over to your place or something. We just needed some time, I said, feeling frustrated. Maybe I've been overthinking things, but anyway, would it be fine with you, Sandra, if I use your car tomorrow? Donna asked. Yeah, of course. My car broke down, and I need to go somewhere very important to meet this friend of mine. Of course you can. I have some more leave from the bookstore, so I'll be staying at home anyway. Peter has his own car, and I don't think I'll be using mine, I replied, trying to keep the peace. You're a lifesaver, Donna said. Later that night, Peter brought up the topic of Donna's broken down car. He told me it had reminded him of how long it had been since he had sent his own car for maintenance. Hey, how about you drop me at mom's house in your car before going to work? We can also make a stop and give Donna my car keys. She can use it and drop it off whenever she wants, Peter suggested. That sounds like a good plan. I agreed, hoping this would help smooth things over with Donna. Then on your way back in the evening, you can pick me up from my mom's house again. Sure, sounds great. On the way back, we can even stop at the maintenance center to drop my car there and get an Uber from there to home. The next day, we followed our plan precisely. Peter dropped me off at my mom's house on his way to work, and before that, we stopped by Donna's place to give her the keys to my car. Hey Donna, here are the keys. You can use my car and drop it back at my place. I'm heading to my mom's house, and the car is in our driveway. I won't be needing it for much time, just some hours. I'll drop it off at your place before you get back home. I had a great time visiting my mom. I cooked for her like in the old times, and we watched our favorite reality show. When Peter picked me up on his way back from work, we went to the maintenance center. Peter left his car there, and we took an Uber home. When we got there, my car was standing in the driveway, and we figured that Donna must have dropped it off after she used it. The next day, he took my car to his office, and something very terrible happened. I received that dreaded call from the hospital. At first, my heart skipped a beat, and I thought it might be about my mom, but then the voice on the other end mentioned Peter's name, and I felt like my world was crashing down. The hospital explained that Peter had been in a car accident, and I could feel the panic rising within me. I rushed to the hospital as fast as I could. When I arrived, I was relieved to see that the accident, while frightening, had not been as catastrophic as it could have been. Peter's head was safe, and he had no major injuries, just a few broken bones. I called Donna to let her know about her son's accident. I was in the hospital room, sitting beside Peter's bed. He was still unconscious, and I was anxiously waiting for him to wake up. I held his hand, hoping for any sign of improvement. That's when Donna walked into the room. What the hell, Sandra? Look what you did to my son. All of this is your fault. How could this be my fault? You were supposed to get into that car and drive it, not Peter. Why did you let him drive your car? Are you serious? What are you trying to say? Just because of you, my son got into an accident. Oh my God, I can't bear the sight of him like this. He's so hurt. My poor son is in so much pain. Wait, Donna, what did you say? What do you mean I was supposed to get into the car? Yes, you and your mother, taking Peter away from me. We were finally getting close again. And then your stupid mom had that stroke, and my son stood me up to go and see that woman. I never liked you, Sandra. You are a terrible girl. Peter deserves better. I tried to tolerate you for his sake, but your mom? She's trying to steal my son too. It's not just you. Did you think I was blind to your attempts to take him away from me? She's alone. She can't have a family and keep a man, so she's trying to steal mine. You started this, Sandra. I thought it would end with you, so I may or may not have arranged for someone to mess with your car, but now look what you've done, dragging my son into this mess. Mom, what's going on? Are you serious? Oh, Peter, babe, are you fine? Can you get my mom out of here? I don't want to see her face. Peter, thank God you're all right. This is all Ella's fault. You're just a bit misguided right now. I did all of this to protect you from Sandra and Trina. Mom, you are just delusional. Just get out of here. I escorted Donna out of the room. Enough is enough. You tried to end my life, and look what happened. You hurt your own son. I won't let that go. Donna, you have insulted me and my mom repeatedly, but I gave you numerous chances, hoping one day you would accept me. In return, you tried to kill me. You wanted me gone, but I will ensure you face the consequences. I spent weeks at the hospital with Peter, waiting for him to heal and come home. He'd been through a terrifying car accident, and his injuries were slowly getting better. But during those long hours by his side, I couldn't forget what Donna had done. While we were still in the hospital, I called a lawyer. I knew I had to take action to make sure Donna faced the consequences of her actions. Dealing with legal stuff and police reports was a hassle, but it was necessary. Donna had to pay for attempting to hurt me. After a bunch of court proceedings, Donna got sentenced to 2 years in jail for attempted murder. The gravity of her actions finally caught up with her. It's been months since the accident, and Peter is still in pain. Some of his wounds haven't fully healed, and the emotional scars run deep. He's understandably furious with his mom for what she did. During this tough time, I've been there for him every step of the way. My mom, Trina, has also been a huge help. We're doing our best to make things as smooth as possible for him, considering the circumstances. Donna might be locked away for a while, but we don't think we can ever forgive her for what she has done. Stay safe, people.
The bride, who had graduated from a prestigious music college, looked down on me, a high school graduate. She compelled me to play the piano at my brother's wedding. I had never told her I could play the piano, so she was definitely messing with me. Furthermore, she whispered in my ear that she was betraying my brother Jack. To be honest, I have a real boyfriend besides Jack, she said. She smiled at me as I trembled in front of the piano, but I knew her smile would soon fade. My name is Elena Johnson, and I'm 32 years old. I'm unmarried and currently working as a staff member at a wedding hall. I have only one brother. Our parents divorced when I was in high school, and a few years later, our mother passed away in an accident. We haven't been in contact with our biological father for a long time, and he never supported us. Needless to say, I had a hard life. Instead of attending college, I went to work, and my brother and I helped each other make ends meet. Jack, my younger brother, is 3 years younger than me. He's sharp and intelligent. He was excused from university tuition under a special student program and completed 4 years of study. After that, he got a job at a well-known company and has been excelling at work. I was quite proud of Jack, who was getting married. According to my brother, the bride was the daughter of a company executive. She was beautiful, had a pleasant demeanor, and was family-oriented. She had graduated from a prestigious music institution and was already offering private piano lessons. She seemed flawless. One day during a holiday, a meeting was held between the two families. The bride and her parents, as well as me and my brother, were present. "Nice to meet you. My name is Grace Miller," she said. I had seen a picture of her before, but she was far more attractive and pleasant in person. Grace then asked me for some advice. "I heard that you work at a wedding hall. Is it possible for us to hold the wedding there?" "Of course, we'd be delighted to help you," I replied, happy to support my brother's big day. The parents were also happy and smiling, discussing the kind of person their daughter was. Elena has been playing the piano since she was a little girl and has won many prizes in competitions, Grace's father boasted, listing her accomplishments. However, Grace's face tightened when her father mentioned a certain girl. My daughter would get decent results, but the same girl would always win first place. It was very frustrating. What was that girl's name? "Let's not talk about that," Grace interrupted, her expression darkening. She quickly changed the subject. An hour later, I had to leave the room because my work phone rang. As I was returning, I saw Grace coming back from the restroom. I spoke to her. "I appreciate everything you did for us today. It was a fantastic day." Grace's attitude changed abruptly. "Attending today's meeting is a high school graduate," she sneered, then hurriedly returned to the room, leaving me stunned. I couldn't understand what had just happened. I finished my work call and returned to my seat, still puzzled. Grace had returned to her former pleasant self. "Elena, would you like something to drink?" she asked kindly, handing me the drink list. I must have misheard her earlier. Not wanting to complicate matters, I didn't tell anyone about the incident, and the meeting came to a close. However, I quickly discovered that it was not a misunderstanding at all. After Grace and I began meeting alone to plan the wedding ceremony, she consistently looked down on me. "You don't resemble Jack, who is very attractive," she would remark, implying that I was unattractive. Grace's sarcasm was relentless, targeting my high school education and unmarried status. "If you have time to assist others in getting married, why don't you worry about yourself?" she'd say. "Thanks for the advice. Oh, but you're only a high school graduate, so you're not very bright. And you lack etiquette because you were raised by a single mother. I don't think you'll be able to find a partner." Grace often boasted about her piano skills, reminding me that she always won top prizes in competitions. "I'm not like you, who only finished high school and went to work." Grace's constant jabs wore on me, and I grew to dislike her, even though she was supposed to be my brother's wife. However, since Jack chose her and their relationship seemed solid, I decided to keep my feelings to myself and endure her behavior. Months passed, and the wedding day arrived. Grace's father, an executive, had many company employees in attendance. Given the high number of guests and their VIP status, I had cleared my schedule to ensure everything went smoothly. Despite being the groom's sister, I chose to work behind the scenes until shortly before the ceremony began. As the ceremony neared, I was in the dressing room touching up my makeup when Grace's two female friends entered. They were engrossed in conversation, so I quietly continued with my preparations. Suddenly, their conversation took an unexpected turn. "Hey, did you know Grace is dating another guy? I've heard he's from the nightclub. She said she's getting married today just to keep up appearances. If that's true, I feel sorry for the groom who has no idea." My mind went blank. I had to stop the wedding. But I couldn't cancel the ceremony without proof. The ceremony began, leaving me feeling bewildered. During the ceremony, Grace's friends, all music college graduates, entertained the guests with beautiful performances. Suddenly, Grace picked up the microphone and announced, "Now my sister-in-law will perform on the piano." All eyes turned to me. I panicked. Grace had never told me about this, and I had never mentioned that I could play the piano. This surprise was not part of the plan. Grace was supposed to play the piano later in the wedding, so the piano wasn't ready. Hearing Grace's words, the ceremony hall staff began frantically arranging the piano. While I was too surprised to move, Grace approached me at the family table and yanked my arm with all her strength. "Come this way," she commanded, dragging me towards the piano. "Hey, you didn't tell me anything about this," I murmured quietly, aware of the guests watching us. Grace started blurting out in a hushed voice, "When I look at you, I can't help but get angry, so all I want to do is annoy you." "Is that the only reason you're treating me like this?" I asked. "Yeah, that's right," she replied with a smirk. As Grace's true nature became more apparent to me, I realized how much I despised her. "The ceremony will be ruined if you refuse to perform here. What do you think will happen if I cry in front of my father? The marriage would be annulled, and Jack would be fired from his job. Do you really want your beloved brother to get fired? Honestly, I have another boyfriend. I only married Jack because my parents were too annoying," Grace confessed. Her words confirmed the rumors I overheard in the bathroom. As I pondered this, the piano was set up. "Let's see what you got," Grace challenged. I sat down on the piano bench, my body shivering and my breath heavy. "I'm wondering if it was too much to ask of someone who only graduated from high school like you. Perhaps you've never even touched a piano," Grace taunted, smiling triumphantly. The audience grew increasingly noisy, and a staff member I knew approached me concerned. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked. Grace, on the other hand, had a contented smile on her face. "Play the piano if you're Jack's sister," but it seems I was mistaken. "I'm sorry," she mocked. However, a single phrase from my brother changed everything. "Don't you know my sister?" he asked. "What?" Grace replied, startled. I broke the silence by playing "Dream of Love," a standard wedding song. The venue, which had been noisy, quieted with the sound of the piano. When I finished, I was greeted with thunderous applause. My colleagues, who hadn't expected me to play so well, were moved to tears. In contrast, Grace's face was bright red, and she was biting her lips. "How could you play so well when you were nervous and trembling earlier?" Grace asked, astonished. "I didn't tell you, but I studied at a music college overseas," I replied, announcing the university's name. Grace staggered backward, shocked. "That's the college I wanted to go to, but couldn't. How could someone like you from a single-mother family attend?" I've been taking piano lessons since I was a little girl and had support from people around me. However, when my mother died, I had to drop out of music school to help my brother attend school, I explained. "The reason I never told you I could play the piano was to avoid ruining your reputation." It seemed my brother hadn't mentioned my piano experience to Grace. Determined to outdo me, she refused to acknowledge my past. "Hey, Isn't that Elena Garcia? One of Grace's friends suddenly asked, recognizing my face. Oh, if that's the case, she's incredible. We can't even begin to compete, she added, recalling me from music college, where I was well known as a brilliant pianist. Grace, hearing the last name Garcia, asked with a bewildered expression, Are you by any chance that Elena Garcia who won all the awards in the competitions? I don't know if I won all the awards, but it's true I won many of them. Yes, that's right, I confirmed. I was the girl who always stood in front of Grace at every competition. Elena Garcia was my name before my parents divorced. The audience cheered, and someone handed me a microphone, asking if I wanted to comment on my performance. I saw my chance to take revenge on Grace and revealed what I knew. Please listen, everyone. Grace is having an affair. Gasps filled the room, and Grace's parents looked stunned, their mouths agape. No, that's not true. She's talking nonsense. Grace tried desperately to deny it. But I quickly connected my phone to the speaker and played a recording of what Grace had whispered in my ear earlier. To be honest, I have another boyfriend. I only married him because my parents were too annoying. Knowing Grace's true nature, I have been ready with my phone's voice recorder to capture her words. Grace's face turned pale as her deception was laid bare. You disgraceful brat, her father yelled, and all hell broke loose. I'm sorry, Papa, Grace pleaded. I'll never forgive you. You are no longer my daughter, her father declared. Jack also turned on Grace. How dare you deceive me? I'm not marrying you. Please reconsider, Grace begged, but my brother was furious. Apologize to my sister too, he demanded, pushing her away. Grace, desperate and not knowing what to do, turned to me. Please forgive me. Everyone will forgive me too. Even at this point, Grace seemed to think only of herself, offering no apology to me. You've been insulting me for so long, and now you expect me to forgive you. You take far too many things for granted. Grace broke down, confessing, How will I ever be able to live on my own if Papa and Jack abandon me? She admitted that her lover was a spendthrift and that she couldn't survive on his money alone. I don't care about your life. I'm not going to forgive you, I told her coldly. Finally, in a tight spot, Grace bowed her head to me. I apologize for everything I've done. I'm sorry, she sobbed, her makeup smudged and her eyes dark. It was a pitiful sight, but I felt nothing for her. You insulted me for graduating only from high school and trampled on my brother's heart. Never show your face in front of us again. Grace broke down in tears and was escorted out of the ceremony hall by her relatives. Her parents then apologized to the attendees, and the wedding was abruptly canceled. After the attendees left, my brother and I talked. I'm really sorry if I made you feel bad because I fell for that woman, Jack said. I'll be fine. Are you going to be okay? I asked. I need to sort out my feelings, but I'll get back on my feet soon, he assured me. I believed him and decided to support him as he healed. Later, my brother and Grace officially broke off their engagement. Jack received compensation, and Grace's parents cut her off and kicked her out of the house. Without her parents' support, Grace struggled to make ends meet. Her affair partner dumped her as soon as her financial support vanished. Jack, on the other hand, devoted himself to his work and was soon promoted, his efforts paying off. As for me, I have been asked to play the piano more frequently at wedding ceremonies, and my days are busy. I hope to bring joy to many people with my performances.
Hello everyone, my name is Arena, and today, I want to share the story of my mother-in-law, Sarah. She is the quintessential nightmare mother-in-law, determined to push me out of her son's life. Did her plan work? No, but she certainly tried. Since you all love mother-in-law stories, I thought my experience might entertain you, and if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, offer some advice. David, my now husband, and I dated for 4 long years. We met through a mutual friend, and the rest is history. He is a wonderful and handsome man. I was surprised to find him single and soon understood why after we started dating. He gave me a small warning saying, I want you to meet my mom, but I'm not sure how she'll react. It's not about you, Irina, or us. It's her. She doesn't like it when I bring a woman home. Seriously. But you're past 20. Why would she have a problem with that? I asked. Well, I grew up with my mom alone since my father left before I was born. She's fixated on me and gets jealous when another woman comes into my life, he explained. That small warning didn't prepare me for the reality. Sarah was a mad woman, and I don't know how to put it politely. When David finally took me to meet her, she didn't talk to me or even look at me during the entire dinner. It was incredibly embarrassing and awkward. David tried to include me in the conversation, but Sarah just ignored me and changed the topic. When I asked her something directly, she would stay quiet and only talk to her son, determined to show me my place. David apologized 1,000 times after we left over the phone since he had to drive his mom home. Did I mention he lived with her? Yes, Sarah would pull health scare stunts and cry a river whenever he wanted to move out. My poor husband was conditioned to prioritize his mom over everyone else. As our relationship progressed, Sarah became even more hostile. She kept telling David to break up with me and resorted to all kinds of manipulation, including blackmail when I asked him to move in with me. I could write a novel about her antics. I endured her horrible behavior because I loved David and he loved me too. Things got worse after we got married. On our wedding day, Sarah walked up to me and said, "Don't be so happy, Irina. This marriage will not last a year. I will make sure of it." What? What are you saying, Sarah? Who says things like this at a wedding? I asked, shocked. I don't care about your stupid wedding. You will never steal my son away from me. I can promise you that. I will make sure this marriage dissolves, and then I will have my son back where he belongs, she retorted. David loves me, and I love him too. Don't you want your son to be happy, Sarah? I pleaded. My son was perfectly happy with me. He didn't need you in his life. I don't care how you managed to trap him, but you won't be here for long. I won't allow some woman to take over my son. I am and will be the only woman in his life. I hope you remember that, she declared. Her words made me cry on my wedding day. As if that wasn't bad enough, she also cut up my wedding veil and threw out my flower bouquet. It was a disaster, but David and I still got married. He tried to get his mom to apologize, but that apology never came. What was worse was that we had to live in Sarah's house after the wedding. On our wedding night, I cried to David. I can't do this, David. I love you and really want this marriage to work, but I can't stay here. I can't have Sarah in our lives. I'm so sorry for my mother's mistakes, Irina. You know I'm the only one she has. I cannot cut her off. Please understand my situation, he begged. Sarah will make my life hell in her house. Can't you see that? I will be miserable here. I already am, I said. I promise I will figure out something about the living arrangements. I won't let you suffer for long. Please just give me some time, David assured me. David kept his promise. Within 3 months, he accepted a job opportunity in another country. The pay was exceptionally good, and he decided to take it. Sarah wasn't happy and threw some major tantrums. But she calmed down when David said she could come and visit. He flew out soon, while I was set to join him a month later. Thankfully, during that month, Sarah ignored me a lot. She never talked to me and kept to herself. I thought maybe I could have a quiet month before leaving for good and worry about Sarah coming later. Fate had other plans. Just a few days before my flight to join my husband, I had a strange feeling when I saw Sarah sneak into my room. She thought I wasn't there, but I was actually in my closet with the door half closed so she couldn't see me. Imagine my surprise when I saw Sarah sneak into my room while I was quietly packing my stuff. I stayed silent and observed her. When I saw Sarah reach for my bag of documents and take out my passport, I was immediately on alert. She took my passport and happily left the room. I came out of the closet, trying to make sense of what I had seen. I went to the living room and overheard my mother-in-law discussing her evil plan with a friend on the phone. I was shocked to learn what she intended to do with my passport. I quickly went to her room and saw my passport lying in a black pencil case. Something came over me, and I replaced my passport with hers. Then I went back into my room and called David. Your mother just tried to burn my passport, David. She came into my room and took it, thinking I wasn't there. I overheard her plan while she was telling a friend on the phone. Whoa, what are you saying, Irina? Mom tried to ruin your passport? This can't be true. Of God, it can't be true. It is true, David. I wish it wasn't. I have my passport safe with me, but I replaced it with hers. I wanted to give you a heads up about it. My mom can't do this, Harina. I'm sure she'll come back out. Why don't we find out? I will make sure I have proof. In the meantime, I knew David would have a hard time believing the truth. It was his mother after all. I didn't blame him and knew I could prove everything. Sarah liked to boast, and she would eventually spill the beans to make me sad. It was only a matter of time. I made some plans and quickly packed my stuff, waiting for an out to leave this place for good. The next morning, Sarah seemed to be in a good mood. She was cheerful and kept giving me smirks. I knew this was the time to use her cocky behavior against her. I sat down and said, "Hey Sarah, have you seen my passport anywhere? My flight is in 3 days, and I cannot find it anywhere." "Ah, your passport. I think I know where it is," she replied. "Oh really, Sarah? Thanks for finding it. I must have misplaced it. Can you give it back to me?" I asked, knowing full well where my passport was. I was just baiting her to spill the truth. Sarah took the bait without suspicion. She looked at me and laughed before saying in the meanest voice she could muster, "No, I can't, Arena. I have destroyed your passport so that you cannot live with my son in another country. It has been burned to ashes. Now you will be forced to stay here while I go and help my son build his life there. Things will be just like they were before you came into the picture." "Oh really, Sarah? You think it would be that easy to remove me from my husband's life? Have you forgotten that I am not just his girlfriend anymore? I am his wife. Divorces happen to a lot of people, Arena. Not all marriages are meant to last a lifetime. It will be easy for me to get rid of you now. I will be around David a lot while you sit here, unable to do anything. In a few months, I will convince him to leave you, and then there will be nothing holding us back. I won't allow him to bring in worthless people to replace me again." The way Sarah had planned this entire thing was disgusting and amusing at the same time. She was so hell-bent on being the only woman in her son's life that she was ready to do anything. All this time, she had been quiet because she was planning this whole thing. It was impressive how fast she could come up with a plan to destroy my marriage and her son's life. She was confident that her son would listen to her and divorce me straight away. I could see why she would think that, after all, they would be far away from me and I would rarely be able to visit. By the time I got my passport back, it would be too late. It was a brilliant plan, but there was a big flaw in it that she didn't consider. So I decided to enlighten her. "That's a nice plan you've got there, Sarah. I'm very impressed, but it is not going to work. Sure, you did destroy a passport, but... Oh yes, you can always get a new one, but it will take months. I just need a little time to convince my son. After that, no passport will be able to help you." "Why would I need a new passport, Sarah? My passport is perfectly capable of doing its job. But I don't think yours can anymore. So it looks like now you can't go live with your son." "Excuse me? What are you talking about?" "I have my passport and plane tickets ready. I will be leaving in a few days." "You can't do that if you don't have your passport with you, Sarah. Meanwhile, I have my passport just fine," I said, pulling out my own passport and showing it to her. It was authentic and it was mine. I showed her my passport but didn't let her touch it. I wasn't going to be that stupid. I let her see it and watched as her face showed complete confusion. It was like she couldn't comprehend how my passport had come back from the grave and was in my hands. She looked shocked and said, "Wait a damn minute. How was that possible?" No, this must be fake. I destroyed your passport with my own hands. I made sure it was burned to ashes. This can't be real." "Unfortunately for you, Sarah, my passport is in perfectly good condition. Not a single flame of fire has touched it, but I can't say the same for yours." "What are you talking about, Arena? My passport is also perfectly all right. Wait, I'll get it and show you." Sarah went to her room to retrieve her passport. She left in haste and looked confident, but when she came back a few minutes later, she looked panicked and scared. "What the hell, Arena? Where is my passport? Did you steal it? This is not funny, Arena. Give me my property back. You can't do this to me." "I didn't take your passport, Sarah, but I do know what happened to it." Tell me where my passport is. Tell me right now. You burned it with your own hands, Sarah. Have you forgotten what happened last night? You took your passport out, put it in the fireplace, and watched it burn. You looked really happy back then." No, that can't be my passport. That's not possible. That can't be mine. I checked." Yes, you checked when you stole my passport and took it to burn, but in your haste, you forgot to check it one more time before throwing it into the fire. Thankfully, I knew what you were up to and quickly swapped my passport with yours. It was easy, you had it right beside mine. Sarah looked like I had shot her in the chest. She clutched her chest and appeared about to have a panic attack, and I was in no mood to help her at all. She looked stricken with panic and fear, tears in her eyes, and didn't know what to do. You monster! How could you do this to me? Oh my God, how will I get to my son? Wow, Sarah, it's okay for you to destroy my passport, but I'm a monster because I replace it with yours? That's rich coming from you. Also, I don't think you need to worry about joining your son anymore. What? What are you talking about? This is not over. I will get a new passport and tell my son what you have done. I will do everything in my power to make you pay for this. A replacement passport won't do you much good, Sarah. I don't think your son will want you to come to his place anymore. David would like to say something on this matter. I picked up my phone and turned up the call volume. Sarah thought I would confront her without having a witness. Well, that wasn't going to happen. So I called David and put him on speaker. I also made sure to tell him to mute the call while turning down the call volume so Sarah wouldn't know someone was on the phone. It worked wonderfully. Sarah went from looking angry to crying when she heard my husband say, "What the hell, Mom? What the hell did you try to do? I just wanted to come see you, and look, your wife has destroyed my passport intentionally. She wants to separate you from me." "Oh no, Mom. That won't work on me anymore. She didn't do anything. You are the one who destroyed the passport, and you are the one who tried to ruin my marriage by separating me from my wife. Although I am surprised to hear that you think you can convince me to leave Verena. I love her, and nothing will make me divorce her." Sarah knew she had been caught. She was in a tight spot with no idea how to get out of this situation, so she started to justify her actions. And oh God, her excuses were just hilarious. They just showed how deranged and crazy she was. She started to sob and said, "David, son, you need to understand why I did it. She really does want to separate me from you. Do you remember how happy we were when it was just the two of us? She came and destroyed everything. You moved away to get away from Arena." "No, Mom, I moved away to get away from you. Everything was perfect until you started to mess up my marriage and tried to kick Arena out of my life. I told you multiple times that I am happy with her, but your selfishness didn't let you choose your son's happiness over yours. What kind of a mother are you?" "David, don't say that, dear. You're breaking your poor mother's heart. Arena is poisoning you against me. Arena has been nothing but patient with you. You don't get to blame your evil deeds on my innocent wife. God, I don't know how you could do this to your own son. You know what? I don't even care anymore. Arena is right. I don't want you to come here. If you do, I will throw you out. I want nothing to do with you anymore." Hearing this, Sarah started to bawl. She was slowly becoming uncontrollable while she begged David to forgive her. She was desperate to get back into his good graces and started to make up stories about how I was abusing her at home. David knew that all those stories were lies and said so himself. My dear mother-in-law kept crying and pleading with David not to do this to her. Meanwhile, my friends arrived at the door, ready to move my packed stuff to their house. There was no way I would stay with Sarah any longer. I would be gone that day itself. They started to haul my stuff into their trucks while Sarah continued to bawl in front of the phone. Finally, David said, "Arena, do you have your stuff out of the house?" "Yes, I do, David. Don't worry, your mother will not be able to destroy anything of mine anymore." "Good. Now go with your friends and stay there till your flight. Leave Mom be and don't entertain her anymore. I'm hanging up. Call me when you are out of the house." Sarah heard our interaction and started to panic again. She looked like the deranged woman she was. She said to David on the phone, "David, son, please don't do this. Don't abandon me here. Please forgive me. Stop, Mom. Just stop. I don't want to listen to you anymore. Lose my number, Mom. I don't want to see you or hear from you again. I will be blocking your number on all forms of communication. Arena will do the same, so don't try to harass her. David, please don't do that. I can't even reach you anymore. I can't clutch your feet and beg. Please don't shut me out. Let's talk this through. We have done plenty of talking before, Mom. Not anymore. You are an independent woman who can live without your son, and I am an independent man who can live without his mom. We don't need to be in touch anymore. Don't bother." David said that and ended the call. Sarah panicked and ran to her own phone to try and call him. We took that opportunity to run for the hills. We all got into the truck and drove far, far away from Sarah and her craziness. I called David on my way and he picked up instantly. "I'm out of the house, David. I'm safe. Don't worry." "Thank God. I'm so sorry, Arena. I never should have left you there. Even if Mom had destroyed your passport and come here first, her words wouldn't have swayed me. I wouldn't have divorced you. You know that, right?" "Yes, I know that, David. I trust you." "Speaking of Sarah, I take it that she is blowing up your phone." "Yeah, she is. Don't worry, she's blocked, and I am going to inform everyone in the family about her latest deeds. Trust me, everyone will be on our side. Just be careful for the next few days and fly here as soon as possible." I flew down to David a few days later. My flight was exactly 3 days later, and I reached David the next day. I was careful not to go out much and enjoyed the peace and quiet at my friend's place. I couldn't take all my stuff to the new country, so I asked my mom to come and collect it. She would rent a U-Haul and take my stuff to her city. My friends were a big help and managed to keep Sarah away from me until I left. Since then, David and I were able to settle in just fine, and we're thrilled to start our new life. It feels good to be close to my husband after being away for so long. Now, I'll tell you what happened to my dear mother-in-law after I left her alone. She kept trying to contact me and David, and we kept blocking every new number she bought. The extended family was already informed about her obnoxious behavior, and they all cut her off. I don't blame them, who would want to keep in touch with a psycho like that anyway. Sarah filed for a replacement passport and came to our country, but she doesn't know our address, so it was a waste of time. She did show up at David's workplace and was escorted out by security. She threw such a big tantrum but the cops were called, and she was promptly sent back to her country. She won't ever get a visa here again, so we will be free from Sarah for a very long time. Get out of here. Leave, as I warned you over the phone. If you dare reprimand my daughter again, you'll have to leave. You ignored my warning, so kindly get out. The absurdity of Emily's demand leaves me speechless. Emily, my sister-in-law, stands there, her face a mask of self-righteous indignation. "You're just my brother's wife, an outsider. Stop pretending to be part of our family," she spits, her words cutting deep. Hearing these words from Emily shatters something inside me. I had endured her verbal abuse and her daughter Olivia's selfishness, thinking they were family. Now all the things I did with their interests at heart have been entirely negated. I have no reason to respect Emily and Olivia anymore. "All right, I'll leave," I reply calmly and start packing my things. Emily and Olivia laugh heartily at my situation, but their laughter won't last long, I think, as I gather my belongings. My name is Chloe, and I live with my husband Ethan and his parents. Ethan had requested that we live with his parents once we were married. At first, I hesitated, but when I met Ethan's parents, I realized they were decent folks who respected boundaries. Convinced that life with them would be manageable, I accepted Ethan's proposal. Once we moved in together, my mother-in-law took over all the housework while I worked outside. In turn, I took over the chores when I was at home. We divided the work in the house, and everything went smoothly. However, the visits from Ethan's sister, Emily, were always distressing. Emily had a daughter, Olivia, and they frequently visited us. Each time, Emily would relentlessly take jabs at me. "Chloe, can I get a cup of tea? I'm so tired from my part-time job and raising my child. You must be relaxed on your days off at home." "I'm so jealous," she'd say. "Well, I also work when I'm at home." "Of the work you do at home is insignificant. I go out to work every day and have a leadership position. Don't compare yourself to me," she would retort. When it was time for Olivia to find a job, Emily often came over to complain about why Olivia couldn't find one. "Olivia is excellent, just like me. The recruiters who reject her must be blind. Maybe she could broaden her job search," I'd suggest. "What could you, who barely works, know? Shut up," Emily would lash out furiously. It seemed Olivia finally landed a job after most of her classmates did. Olivia and Emily came over to report the good news to my mother-in-law. "Granny, I've got a job. Look." Olivia proudly showed off her job offer letter to my mother-in-law, who smiled contentedly. "Well done, Olivia." "Yeah, I didn't expect to get into such a large company in the end. The interviewer was kind from the start. Olivia beamed. Next to Olivia, Emily grinned broadly. This company is a subsidiary of the company I work part-time for. My name might be known even in the parent company since I've been around a while. So I got the job thanks to Mom, huh? Olivia mused. It could be. The interviewer saw your name, recognized you as my daughter, and probably had a good impression. Come April, Olivia was to attend a month-long training program for new employees. The training location was only a few minutes away from the home where my in-laws and I lived. Emily, knowing this, called my mother-in-law. Mom, I want Olivia to commute from your house during her training. The training place is over an hour away from our home. We have a spare room, and I don't mind at all. Let me just check with Chloe. Do you need to ask Chloe? Well, but that's your house, right? Chloe is just living there. She won't complain, Emily insisted. Thanks to Emily's insistence, I only found out that Olivia would be living with us for a month after everything had been decided. I was a bit puzzled, but there was no reason to oppose Olivia living there. I warmly welcomed Olivia, and our shared life began. Once the training began, Olivia was late 1 out of every 3 days, despite the training location being just a stone's throw away. It seemed that her habit of waking up at a fixed time every morning had completely disappeared due to her relaxed student life. Grandma, why didn't you wake me up? I called you many times. If I don't make it in time, calling me doesn't mean anything. Forget it. I'm taking a morning off today. Please call the company and tell them I'm taking half a day off due to poor health. Olivia, you're an adult now. You should be doing such things yourself. If I say I'm too sick to even make a phone call, it'll be more believable. Just do as I say, Olivia demanded, taking advantage of my mother-in-law's soft spot for her granddaughter. Olivia had become completely spoiled. Even when she came home from training, Olivia wouldn't do anything for herself. Grandma, I'm tired. Is dinner ready? Welcome back, Olivia. I'm just about to make dinner. What? You're just starting now. Why didn't you have it ready by the time I got home? I'm tired, and I want to eat right away. You're so thoughtless, Olivia snapped. I'm sorry. I'll have it ready soon, my mother-in-law replied, clearly rattled. Seeing my mother-in-law being pushed around by Olivia, who was probably tired from her first job, I couldn't stand it anymore and spoke up. Listen, Olivia, having a warm meal waiting for you when you come home isn't something to be taken for granted. Why don't you show some appreciation to Grandma? Why do I have to listen to you, Chloe? You're not even family. Stay out of it. Not family. I married Ethan, so I am part of your family, Olivia. Mom said Chloe is my brother's wife, so she's an outsider. Then let me tell you as a senior member of the workforce, Olivia, that you should take more responsibility for yourself. Waking up on time to avoid being late is a basic rule of being an adult. A senior in the workforce? Chloe, you're not even going to work every day. Wait till you're actually working hard like me or Mom before you start acting all high and mighty. Olivia completely ignored what I was saying. Then, one day, when I returned home from work, I could hear Olivia's loud voice coming from the living room. What do you mean you're going out? It's unacceptable that there's no dinner when I come home exhausted. I'm sorry, but we're looking forward to our theater outing that day. Your theater outings are just fun and games. I have work. You need to cancel it. Apparently, my in-laws had informed Olivia that they were going to the theater next week and wouldn't be able to cook dinner, and this had infuriated her. I was well aware that my mother-in-law had been looking forward to this day at the theater for quite some time. However, I was worried that if things kept going this way, they might feel compelled to cancel their plans to avoid upsetting Olivia, so I hurriedly proposed a solution. Since you've been looking forward to this, you should go. I'll take care of Olivia's dinner that day. My in-laws seemed thrilled by my suggestion but quickly began to worry. But isn't that a workday for you, Chloe? Are you sure it'll be all right? Yes, if I arrange things now, I think I can get home early. So don't worry and have a good time. On the day of the theater outing, I left work early to come home. My in-laws happily left for their event. After seeing them off, I did some shopping for dinner and waited for Olivia's return. As always, as soon as Olivia came home, she lay down on the couch and waited for dinner. Oh, I'm hungry. Chloe, hurry up and get cooking. Olivia, let's cook together today, I suggested. At my words, Olivia jumped up from the couch. What? Why do I have to do that? Isn't it natural to cook your own food? No way. I've been at work. I'm not doing housework when I'm tired. I've been working too. I've got the ingredients. Can't you just help me out? You, Chloe, can come home whenever you want from your easy job. Me, who has to go at a set time every day, we are not the same. Just hurry up and make it by yourself. The fact that I was able to come home early today was a result of painstakingly adjusting my work schedule. But I doubted that Olivia would understand that. Swallowing my anger, I calmly tried to reason with her. Listen, Olivia, I'm not asking you to help me because I find it bothersome to cook alone. I want you to understand what it means to be a responsible adult. What? I don't need your interference. After letting the grandparents go out without asking me, you're giving me a lecture, which is super annoying. Olivia then stood up, visibly irritated, and started dialing on her phone. Mom, listen to this. Chloe keeps nagging me and she won't even cook dinner. She unloaded her complaints about me to her mother, Emily, once she had said her piece. She handed me the phone with a triumphant smile. Mom wants to talk to you, Chloe. As I took the phone, Emily's angry voice blared from the other end. Listen here, who do you think you are, talking to my daughter like that? As my son's wife, if you continue to cause problems for my daughter, I'm going to ask you to leave that house. It's not about causing problems. All I wanted to do was impart some sense of responsibility to Olivia as a working adult. So you're trying to lecture on being a responsible adult? Chloe, you're not even a full-time employee. How can someone who is hardly needed by their company afford to be so cocky? How can you say I'm not needed, Emily? When you've been around as long as I have, you can tell at a glance who's capable and who's not. I've made sure to see off many a dead weight. Then, without a second thought, Emily added, just go and prepare dinner for my daughter, and hung up the phone. Olivia, sitting next to me, smirked as she looked my way. You better not oppose my mom, Chloe. There's no one at work who can even admonish her, so get to making dinner already, okay? With that, she sprawled lazily on the couch again. This mother and daughter pair, there's no reasoning with them. Left with no choice, I began to prepare the meal. I'm so hungry because of your pointless chit-chat, Chloe, Olivia mumbled under her breath as she nibbled on the meal I prepared. Once she was done eating, she abandoned her dishes and headed back to the couch to watch TV without so much as a thank you. Hey Olivia, at least clean up after yourself. I tried repeating myself, but all I got was a bored look from Olivia. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It was Emily. Why are you here? To my surprise, Emily casually replied, it seemed like you didn't quite get the message over the phone, Chloe, so I thought I'd come over and tell you directly. Hearing her mother's voice, Olivia excitedly reported, Mom, listen. Just after you warned her over the phone, Chloe started lecturing me again. Hearing Olivia's words, Emily glared at me. Looks like it was the right decision to come here after all. You're still complaining to my daughter even after everything I said. I had backed off on the phone, but I couldn't let this go for Olivia's sake. It's not a complaint. I'm merely teaching her the basic manners of cleaning up after herself, something even a grade schooler should understand. Hearing this, Emily snapped at me. There is no need for someone like you to be telling us about manners. Have you considered your own situation before lecturing about manners? What about my situation? You and Ethan can barely afford a house even with both your salaries combined. You're just leeching off this household. Why don't you change your own attitude before teaching my daughter about being a responsible adult? I'm not here to leech off you. As proof, I make sure to pay my fair share of the rent and living expenses every month. How I want. Well, it doesn't matter. Either way, you're going to leave this place. Leave. I told you on the phone, if you continue to berate my daughter, you'll need to move out. You ignored my warning, so now it's time for you to go. That's absurd. I was at a loss for words at the sheer injustice of it all. Seeing me unable to retaliate, Emily went on, you're still an outsider, even if you are my brother's wife. Stop acting like you're part of the family. Emily's words hit me hard, and something inside me crumbled. I had put up with Emily's insults and Olivia's selfishness because I thought of them as family. I had been rejected by them despite doing everything with their best interests at heart. There was no reason left for me to restrain myself with Emily and Olivia anymore. All right, I'll leave, I said quietly, beginning to pack my things. At the sight of me packing, Emily and Olivia started to crack up. Ignoring their laughter, I continued to pack. When my in-laws returned home, my mother-in-law's face shifted as she took in the scene. "Oh, is that you, Emily? Chloe, what's with the luggage?" Before I could answer, Emily chimed in. "Chloe has been lecturing Olivia while she can't even do her own job. She's become such a nuisance. We decided to send her packing." My mother-in-law's face drained of color. "Apologize at once, and you too, Olivia." "Why should I apologize to Chloe? If she wants to be part of our family, she should ask us. Maybe then we'll consider it." Emily's statement was backed up by a firm nod from Olivia. My mother-in-law sighed deeply. "You too, it's over for you." "What? What are you talking about? The one who's done is Chloe, right? She's the one being cut off from our family." Emily's brazenness left my mother-in-law shaking. "Do you even realize who made it possible for Olivia to get her job? That's me, the part-time manager." Emily tried to puff herself up, but my mother-in-law interrupted her. "No, it's not like that at all. It's because Chloe, who's an executive at the corporate office, recommended her to human resources." "Well, that's a lie. Chloe barely does anything. She's home half the week." Facing the confrontational Emily, I revealed the truth. "I often attend executive meetings online, so I work from home." "Then did Chloe really get Olivia her job?" "I really wanted Olivia to find a job on her own, but she begged me for help." "Why? Why didn't you say anything?" "I wanted Olivia to start at the same place as everyone else, to work without any advantages. It was better for her not to know that I was an executive at her company." "So did Mom and Dad know this from the beginning?" "I had asked your parents and Ethan to keep my position a secret, Emily. Since you always assumed I was incompetent, you never showed interest in my work, so there was no need to tell you." "So you're telling me I've been disrespecting an executive at my own company this whole time?" Olivia, now aware of the truth, went pale. "That's right. Thanks to my concealed identity, I got to learn a lot about how new employees like to fake illness and such." Please don't tell anyone about this," Olivia pleaded desperately. I coldly replied, I thought I'd let it slide because it's a family matter, but it seems I'm not considered family to you too, so I can't stay quiet if it's something that will harm the company. But I will be assigned after the training." "Exactly, Olivia. You're lacking awareness as a working professional. Moreover, you're not willing to accept others' opinions. We can't let you interact with customers with this attitude." Emily, in her panic, clung to me. "I'll take back what I've said. Olivia is Chloe's adorable niece. Don't report anything that would harm her situation." "Emily, don't you think you should worry about your own role?" "What? Your part-time team's high turnover rate has been repeatedly brought up in the parent company's meetings. If it comes to light that you, as the manager, are forcing part-time employees to quit, it's going to be a big problem." Emily remembered her own words, and her face tightened. "Wait, that's a misunderstanding. I was just guiding the unproductive part-timers, and then they quit on their own. I'm not responsible for this." "Well, that can be investigated. We have a meeting next week with your company's board members. We'll report this and have it thoroughly examined." "No way. My hard-earned managerial position." Afterward, I decided not to leave the house after being persuaded by my mother-in-law. However, I did report Olivia and Emily to the company. Olivia ended up attending a training center in the mountains for retraining for 6 months, while her peers were assigned positions one after another. It seemed she was thoroughly trained on the basics of being a professional. Emily's workplace underwent an audit at my direction. With complaints from other employees and testimonies from those she had forced to resign, it was found that Emily was using her position of authority to cause a lot of stress to those around her. As a result, Emily was fired. Emily seems to have started a new job to cover her living expenses. However, since she's only ever worked at one place before, she's having a hard time getting the hang of her new job. Despite this, she still acts high and mighty and seems to be on the verge of getting fired from her new job as well. At this rate, her life will likely continue to be difficult. On the other hand, I continue to live peacefully, sharing household chores with my in-laws as usual. This incident seemed to have taken quite a toll on my mother-in-law. "Chloe, I'm sorry, because I've spoiled Olivia and Emily. I made you go through such unpleasant experiences." "No, it's fine. I was happy that you stood up for me. Having had a good talk with my in-laws, I feel that our bond is even stronger than before." Even though my sister-in-law turned out to be a challenge, I look forward to continuing to live with my mother-in-law, maintaining our good relationship.